So hello everybody, it has been a little while since the last video and I do apologise. So just, life getting in the way of living I guess, and we've had Christmas, New Year. I do have a little family here as well, so they keep me entertained. So thank you for all your messages, all your comments, likes. I try and get to everybody who leaves a message. And I can tell that I've got a lot of real car enthusiasts subscribe to me, and it's awesome. I got into this community back in 1997, where I started life really, I suppose, with my first decent car. Was a Suzuki Swift GTI, and that thing I thought was just awesome. Just absolutely insane little 1.3 litre hatchback. And for a long time it held the record as the fastest production 1300cc engine. It was a stupid little car, but it was great fun, really good fun. Learned a lot about driving, and it was great and quite reliable. But anyway, so here we are with a whole pile of steps in between again, going between RX-7s, Evos, Impreza STIs, Supras, Eclipses, oh my goodness, the list goes on and on and on, and here we are at my 350Z again. So, the big thing I'm going to show you is this is non-permanent. It's a PlastiDip, it's a Blaze Series PlastiDip. I guess kind of from the JDM market right now, what's going on in the world in Japan, what's going on in the world in Drift, Formula D, and all the other sort of quite extreme vehicles out there. The wheel color is really vibrant, really high contrast and really standing out, and I was kind of torn between either doing this or a really bright blue with the orange. I wasn't sure. The more I see it, the more I like the green, but I was, me being me, tremendously indecisive as to which way I went. So what I did was I thought, well look, let's see what it looks like with the blue, and then see what it looks like with the bright green. Unfortunately, the camera is not doing that green justice. I'll show you the cap in the light, and I'll show you what it sort of looks like. It's a little bit darker than the cap, but that gives you an idea. And that's the blue. And there's a percentage of me that's just writing the blue off. I'm not the biggest fan of the blue. The green I actually really like, but it's a love it or hate it thing. And then, if I come around here, I'll actually show you the caps. So there you go. So that's the green. That's the green and the blue, right there. So as you can see, they're pretty vibrant colours. And don't get me wrong, the wheels are quite dirty right now. Make no mistake, this car was in the rain before I put it away, and I haven't had time to polish the vinyl. I did just start it up and give it a good run, so the battery should be charged now. The reason I'm charging the battery is because today I've had so many of you recently ask me A, about the wheels, and B, about the car audio, about the stereo. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, talk about the wheels. So the wheels are 10.5-inch wide, front and rear, fast TE37 replicas with a deep spoke. So you can get these in a flat spoke or a deep spoke like this. I think part of that comes down to offset that you choose, and part of that comes down to a little bit of design choice that you get depending on bolt pattern and offset. But I did go with a deep. I saw this on an RX-8 and it really did look quite good. And as you can see the deepness there on the wheel. Absolutely fantastic. This wheel, I don't think I could have picked any better wheel design than what I have for this car. I just think it 100% complements it. When the tyres wear out, I am going to change the tyres. I'm not going to go with such a stretch because I don't push this car anywhere near as hard as it's capable of. Not even a fraction, probably not even 50%. I wouldn't dare go into some corners like I would my Evo. Purely because of the stretch tyre and the functionality of stretch tyres, especially a heavy stretch like this. I'll show you. It's an extremely heavy stretch, and the actual functionality of grip and stability of the sidewall on a stretch like that, I think personally it's not that safe for working in extreme corners and pushing it with pressure on the sidewalls there, sideways. Lateral G's, as they call it. So, I think what I'll probably do is I'll probably go to like a 300 mil wide rear tyre, like a really, really wide, a 305 or maybe a 295 on the rear. I'll buy 2 more wheels that are a 9.5 inch for the front, and I'll go with a staggered fitment and give it more of a regular tyre wall and a regular sort of staggered fitment fit like my old RX-7 had, versus the stretch look that this has, just purely for function, because at the moment I am probably only getting about 50% performance out of the handling of the car as to what it can do. Although I did, moving around here, I did learn there is absolutely massive fun to be had, if you can see it. Of course you can't see it. Can we get focus on that? Okay, so that switch right there, there is all kinds of fun. If my camera will ever focus. Of course it won't. Hold on guys, let me get some focus going on here. See if we can get some focus. There we go. Okay, so there's all kinds of fun to be had from that button, and turning it off. It's kind of annoying that you have to turn it off every time. But I did find that when going around some corners, the VDC does kick in. And it does really, really, really mess with what you expect from the car when you're cornering. It removes all control from you, actually, when you're wanting to induce oversteer and you're wanting the car to kick out a little bit and get free. It does take over the car, and it does kind of throw you a little bit from left to right as you're forcing them to override the computer. Turning that off makes this car a whole pile more controllable when you are trying to do something over and above what the car is used to. So, yeah. I've only owned the car for like 6 months, never played with that button, and now I am. I'm actually really enjoying it. So, let's go inside here and talk about the car. Okay, talk about the stereo here. So I mentioned in a previous video about the stereo situation with this car and what I did. We talked about the Audiobarn 12s that replaced the glove box and the factory Bose, building the panels for that and the custom work that went into that. Amp mounting. The other issue which came up, of course, was this was a Bose aftermarket unit. The factory wiring, the factory speaker system is absolutely lame. It really, really is. And it's not like a system that you can just go behind there and there's perfectly a white, white, black, green, green, black, purple, purple, black wire and grey, black wire, so that you can just tap straight onto speaker wires from a regular stereo. There isn't that ability. So what you have to do is you have to integrate either into the factory wiring, Scotch, PAC, and I believe Metra now all have an adapter kit. The Scotch is great because it's available everywhere, Walmart, everywhere, about $40, and all it is a line signal converter. So it takes the line signal from your stereo outputs on your speaker outputs on your new stereo, converts them into a signal that will work with the factory Bose amp, and then spits them out the other side to the factory wiring, and gives the amp a signal that it will like, and then allows you to get, I'm going to say, sound out of your speakers. It's not the best, but it is a great intermediate solution to getting an aftermarket stereo into your car and not sounding bad at all. The ideal, of course, is to gut the system, put an aftermarket 4-channel amp in there, and run new wire. I haven't gone that far, but I have ran new wire to the speakers. So, okay, so let's talk about the stereo. So this is a Owoko chassis, or Awoki chassis, however they pronounce it. This is a generic Chinese touchscreen chassis. There is a whole plethora of variations of this, but primarily they can break it down into 2 categories, guys. So the first one is this one. This is a Windows, as you can see, a Windows-based system. It actually uses Windows CE. There's a version of it that now looks like Windows 8, but ultimately it's just a software thing. There's no actual functioning difference, or I guess firmware difference between the two of them. The other version is an Android version, which does have huge benefits if you're looking for one or two key features. It's all down to what you want, and I'm going to go into the differences and what you want in a little bit. So, as you can see here, this is your splash screen, this is your main screen. So on there we've got your radio, SD card. Now you can play movies, music videos, MP3s, any kind of compressed audio format pretty much, bar FLAC, you can put into there. We have TV now. If you live in an area where they still do broadcast television, radio waves over analog, this will actually pick up TV, and you can watch TV now. As it happens where we are, you cannot do that. So that's pretty much redundant. Of course, you've got a DVD player. Again, DVD movies. You can even put DVDs that you've written yourself with 4.5 gig of music, and that's what I used to do back in the day, pre-USB. And you can get quite a lot on there. We do have two USB ports on this, so we've got a front one and a rear one. The front one is a mini USB, but you can put thumb drives and everything else onto there. It's pretty fast, and the sound quality is, of course, fantastic, just like any other MP3. Now, that's your navigation button and Bluetooth. So, the Bluetooth on this is wonderful. It not only does Bluetooth for your controls of your phone, but it also does Bluetooth audio as well. So, let's go into Bluetooth. So this is connected to my phone that I'm talking to you on right now. So along the bottom there, we've got several buttons. The second button in with the musical note is actually when you hit it. There you go. So that brings you up to Bluetooth music. Now from here I can play, pause, fast forward music. Now, if you're like me and you listen to a lot of internet radio, rather than like XM or Sirius, via Bluetooth, you can actually stream your app for your Bluetooth music over this, so you can listen to any station on the planet via Bluetooth from your phone streaming, and I do that probably 90% of the time. It removes the necessity for piles of CDs, USBs and everything else, and you get a bit of diversity in your music. But you can control that, and at the same time your Bluetooth is still working, so if your phone rings you can still do all that good stuff. This one ports all your contacts into it and saves it. Ports all your recent call history, call logs. It does all that good stuff. So technically, as far as driving safety is concerned, you don't need to touch your phone really once you've got going. So that's a plus always. Now then, moving on. So we'll go back home. There we go. Okay, so what I want to show you now is the navigation. I mentioned at the start of this video when I talked about the stereo, there's two types of stereos that you can get. There is a Windows and an Android version. Now, the Android navigation uses Google Maps, which, as far as navigation goes, I don't think you can get much better. It's absolutely fully featured. It's simple to use. We all know it. Wonderful detail. It's always up to date. And there's just a whole pile of benefits in having Google Maps. The only disadvantage is, if you go for the Android and navigation, it requires your phone's data connection to receive information whilst you're driving. So it can be really data heavy, I found, based on a very quick test. I found that it can eat, like if you're doing a little bit of navigation for maybe an hour's drive or a 2-hour drive, it can actually chew quite a lot of information backward and forward over your data. So if you don't have a good data plan on your phone or a lot of data available, the navigation on the Android one probably isn't the way to go. Now, on the Windows version, this is a preloaded SD card with a map that is fully updatable. The navigation itself is a brand called iGo. Now, I've been using this software since about 2005. It was released for handheld touchscreen cellular devices, and then ported across as well to these navigation units because it uses so little memory and it's so easy to use. So this is your splash screen. No data required for this. And you can punch in there any destination, whatever, postcode or zip code. You can even take the card out, and if you live in a different part of the world, you can update it to that. If you've got new roads, whatever, you can also update it as long as they've got the licensing, which you should check before you purchase. Normally they're pretty good and they'll tell you if you get a licensed version or not. You do have a night mode and a day mode. So what we can do is we can turn our, if I go to here, at night time, it does know the time of day and it will actually dim down so that it doesn't blare you, because it is a really bright screen, as you can see. So we'll go back to our home. Where are we? Now then. So turn GPS off, and it takes us back to Bluetooth. Now, the really cool thing about the stereo is that it's what they call dual zone. So the dual zone stereo, what it does is it allows you to listen to music or have telephone conversations and have the navigation communication going at the same time. So you can have your girlie in the background talking to you, turn left, turn right, and your phone or your music will still continue playing. It's not like when you close one program down, or you open another program, it closes the one you were doing down. You can actually run multiple things at the same time, which is really useful. So EQ, the only thing I will say about all these stereos, and it doesn't matter which one you buy, if you're an audiophile out there, right, if you're heavy into your audio big time, there's two downsides to these stereos, right, and there has been since they very first hit the market way back when. And it's the EQ. The EQ control on these is just the minimum required to do the job, right? Absolute minimum. If you want to be able to control frequencies and levels of frequencies, cutoff points, and all this other stuff, this is not the stereo for you. And if you do really like this stereo, then an aftermarket EQ is absolutely the way to go. And that will fix the second problem with these stereos if you're an audiophile. They only have a 2.5 volt amp output. So the problem with that is that they actually split that as well. You only get one RCA output that you then have to adapt to a dual RCA output to go to a normal 2-input amp. So we're now splitting an audio signal that's already weak. So if you go and put something like I did in the Eclipse, you go and put an Audiobarn AEQ6 in there, or a Rockford what's the model number? RF01? RKO1, something like that. Anyway, the Rockford equivalent is also another good example, because both of them EQs put out a nice solid 8 volts. So it will upscale that signal to a really solid signal. So on to audio, I guess. So let's go back to our menu. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into the SD mode. So this is where you can play all your music from. Like I said, this is all going to be relative. Whatever this sounds like, it's going to depend on your speaker setup, what you're listening to device-wise, and the quality that you have. But hopefully the sounds in here that you're going to hear will give you an idea of the range of sounds that this car can produce now, when you actually figure out what you want musically from your sound. So I'm going to put some drum and bass on. And it will show you what I mean when it hits so many different levels within drum and bass, especially the more instrumental stuff. It's called liquid drum and bass, or soulful drum and bass, whatever you wish. But I'm going to crank this up to about halfway, and hopefully it'll give you a good idea. So that's another good feature of this stereo, is that you can actually skip through tracks just by pressing the slider along, just like you would on your PC. You don't have to sit there and hold the fast forward button to get to a part of a track. But like I said, it's all about relativity with this, and the diversity of sound and what it can do. So all the different highs it can hit, all the different lows it can hit, and the range of frequencies it can produce. And I have to admit, this car does lend itself to being acoustically quite good. But we'll move on. I'm going to show you the settings I've got it in, and this is, again, this is all relative, guys, because it's all down to A, the music you listen to, and B, what you consider musical, right? Which is a huge thing. That's such a diverse and important word, is musical. And when you talk to people about doing custom car audio, and you talk to people about what they expect, what they want, what are the key features they're wanting from a car stereo, one of the questions you need to ask right off the get-go is, what kind of music do you listen to? Now, that's a pretty generic question to most people, but to a true installer who actually builds boxes to spec, will take that information, and he will build the box for the subwoofers and things like that, and he will build the system based on what you listen to. So if you listen to country music, you will have a very different setup to somebody who listens to R&B and hip-hop. If, like me, you're into dance music, drum and bass, very reactive, fast-paced bass at very high beats per minute, you also will have a very different setup. Drum and bass generally runs extremely low and extremely high. So you have a lot of high frequencies for the hats and stuff. And then you also have a lot of heavy bass as well in there. My EQ pretty much talks about that right there. So as you can see, I've got extremely high treble, a little bit of mid just to fill out the speakers, and I have no bass coming out of my speakers whatsoever. Subwoofer controls on +4, that you can vary as you go. This gives me control over my amp. Loud is on, and I generally find that the sound in the car, now on this particular stereo, you can, as you can see by this picture, you can actually move sound around. Really cool feature, because some people like the audio to be very much focused on them as a driver. So what we can do is we can actually move the audio around so the focal point is right on you. This cabin is so small, I've got speakers literally next to my head. It doesn't require me really inside here to do that, and Nissans are so overly engineered when it comes to interior. That's one of the reasons they weigh about 50,000 pounds on gross road weight. They're so solid that it doesn't really make much of a difference in here. But if you had something like a Mercedes or a BMW, something with a large cabin area, for sure, go for it. Play around with that, because you may find some benefit in moving the sound around. My speakers and my subs now are starting to bed in. So what I'm finding now is I'm more and more as I go, I'm actually turning the bass down because they're producing so much more. The travel on them, they have a 1.5-inch foam surround for the actual cone, which gives them a rather large excursion. Excursion is the travel that the subwoofer does as it plays bass backward and forward. And what that does is that produces air movement, which produces SPL and bass. And as they loosen up over time, they do change in sound, so you do generally have to start playing around with these settings on brand new subs. The subwoofer in my family car in the Tribeca right now is hitting extremely hard, and that required a turn down because I've got the bass at the -6 point now, and I can't go any lower on the factory system, and it's still just overpowering everything. Again, that's an Audiobarn 12. A huge fan of Audiobarn gear, have been for this year. It'll be 14 years I've been involved with Audiobarn. So that's the sort of stereo there. Of course, it does do all kinds of other features on here. If I go back to the menu, one of the other things about this stereo is it does have the reverse camera input. Wonderful piece of kit, especially if you've got a car that's heavily tinted or if you've got a car like a Chrysler 300 that is extremely low roof and very hard to see out of. Cobalts are a nightmare as well. Any Cobalt drivers out there, you know what I'm talking about. That window is really sloping and you've got two headrests that do not come out. They are bolted into the back seat, so you can't really do much with them. So the reverse camera is great, but let's move on. So moving across, so we have an auxiliary input here as well. I mean, I don't know how many devices you want to connect to this thing, but you can connect a whole pile of devices and have endless music. There's your camera. So you can enable reverse camera. It does have a dedicated iPod, but that's pretty much redundant since like 1942 because it's the old style connector rather than the new small port, and basically nothing's compatible. I've got an old iPod, but it's not even worth bringing it in here because, like I said, 90% of my music I just stream. This particular stereo and the Android does have Wi-Fi. You can actually surf the internet through your phone on these things. You do have to set up the Wi-Fi, so you can set your phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot, or if you're in a car park in Starbucks or Tim Hortons, wherever, and you've got Wi-Fi signal, you can actually stream internet directly to your phone. Card games, if you want to play them. The audio setting is just the EQ that I showed you earlier. Navigational path, you'll need that. That's just a piece of software there, basically to allow you to update off the SD card. So if you take your card out, take it inside, put it to the new map, you'll go in there and you'll reload your software through there. A puzzle that's just really bizarre. It's a jigsaw puzzle of some Asian lady. You've got a DVR system in there. Again, if you want to record off the camera, you can actually set this up. So you've seen the videos in Russia, the dash cams and everything else that's out there now. More and more and more society, because of unfortunately the way it is, more and more and more we're going to see these dash cams appearing in everybody's car just because of the way that everything's going these days. It's everybody's out there to, I don't know, win, I guess, ultimately, and if ever you get in a collision, they're also extremely useful. So this system can directly tap in and it can record onto your SD card every time you get in and start driving. That's all done stealth. It's in the background. You don't need to worry about that. That just kind of does it on its own. And the nice thing about that, with it being such a small device that plugs into this, you can bury the camera. So we can put it up behind here, or you can mount it in your dash, or you can put it wherever you wish. You can put it in your roof liner, wherever you wish. And then the last thing is your browser. So if you click on that, you do legitimately have an internet browser that you can use. There we go. Of course, I haven't got my Wi-Fi enabled right now, but you do have a full-blown internet browser. So if you've got a fault with your car and you want to look it up, this is the way to go. And that's an absolutely perfect tie-in to talk about why you would go to the Android. Okay, so the Android system does one thing that this doesn't, which is it has the Play Store. So if you're like me and you love your gadgets, you love your toys, there's an app out there called Talk, and it's absolutely awesome. It's a Bluetooth communication piece of software that if you have a Bluetooth adapter that you can buy quite cheaply and easily, you can plug it into your car's ECU by your OBD port. And I know you can't see it. Let me show you. So that's it. So it's just an Elm 232. Oh, 327 in this particular case. Oh, I can't get the light to work. I'll come out here. So there you go. So that's it. It's just a Bluetooth adapter. You attach it to your Bluetooth compatible and paired list. And then you can plug that into your ECU. Now, if I was going to run this permanently, what I would do is disconnect the actual connector in your dash and then tuck this in behind your dash and just leave it connected. They use milliamp. These things don't use a lot of power at all. And then if you've got an Android stereo, what you can actually do is you can load the app to your stereo, and on your stereo you can do real-time data logging, view air-fuel ratios, you can do view horsepower figures, efficiencies, you can see what your O2 sensors are doing, you can do engine diagnostic if you get a check engine light, you can even clear codes from it. Like the list goes on and on and on and on. So if your priority is gadgets and features, I would say that the Bluetooth adapter and talk on your Android system would be awesome, absolutely amazing. It was my plan originally, but I use this car for trips and things like that, and navigation for me is something I would use when I drive it on a daily basis. So for me, the feature of not having to use data when navigating was more overriding than the fact that I can do this. I actually have the Talk app on my phone, so if I do need to do any of that stuff, I can still do it. It just doesn't show on there, which is kind of cool. But ultimately, that's the stereo, guys. Hopefully, I've gone into enough detail, and hopefully, I've answered all your questions out there. I know it's a pretty boring subject matter, but like I said, I've had so many people ask me about this stereo, I just felt that I had to make a video and show you guys just what it's capable of. I don't think there is actually, for the money, a more feature-packed system on the market. I don't think if there is anything under $1,000 that could come close to what this can do. You're getting into your higher end Alpines, you're getting into your higher end Kenwoods when you're doing this, and you will be paying a phenomenal amount of money unless you get a good deal. These are now sub $300 delivered, so you get a hell of a bang for your buck compared to most stereos and features. But as always, guys, thank you so much for all your support. I hit 700 subscribers recently, and it's just amazing. I'm just an ordinary guy, just like you guys, who is obsessed and driven by my love of all things automotive and modifications and playing with cars. Please ask questions. Please leave comments and stuff, and I try and answer everybody. And I wish you all the best with your own builds. I've got lots of people who are doing cars right now, and it's always really exciting to go on these journeys with people as well. So if there's anything I can help you guys with, just please feel free to send me a message, and I'll do my best to help everybody I can. Alright guys, well look, all the best to you. I hope this has helped some of you out there, and I'll keep more videos coming, but take care guys. Thank you very, very much. Bye now.